Now joining me, legendary Congressman Ro Khanna from California's 17th District. How you doing, Congressman?
Cenk, I'm doing well. Are you getting in this congressional race?
No comment.
I think strong progressives like you would be great.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Let's talk about the news of the day for a little bit. Impeachment hearings have begun. They're being televised. It doesn't look good for Trump. How toast is he?
Here is what was so compelling about Ambassador Taylor and George Kent. They came off as career officials who dedicated themselves to the country. You know, when you even have Republicans saying we respect your service, it's clear these aren't partisan individuals. They testified about issues they had even with Vice President Biden's judgment. But here was the main fact. They basically confirmed that the president withheld aid unless Zelensky investigated Biden and announced this investigation. And so I think it was very compelling, and it's going to move people.
So, Congressman, how do we deal with the other side? Because they live in a different planet. And so Axios now reporting that Trump's team happy with how the first day went. I saw it with my own eyes. It was devastating, right? There was one guy after another saying, yeah, there was a deal where he had to investigate his political opponents if you wanted military aid. That's extortion, it's campaign finance law violations, it's all of it. And they go squirrel, right? Oh yeah, I'm angry about the whistleblower. So how do you deal with their bucket of squirrels?
Well, they don't believe in facts, but this is a real test for a democracy. I mean, you had two individuals who were not partisan, who were understated, which is a refreshing change in Washington. They weren't playing for the cameras. You know, I think Ambassador Taylor said, I'm not trying to be a star witness. They just were laying out the facts as they saw them. I believe most people watching at home are going to say, I believe what they're saying. I believe that the president really abused his office. These individuals have nothing to gain from testifying. They are doing so with great courage. And the Republicans saw, okay, there are no fireworks, and they think that may be a good thing. I view that as a problem for them, that you have witnesses who are credible and sticking to the facts, and that's going to sway a lot of the independents who we need.
See, I'm glad I asked. So that's what it is. I didn't understand why they thought it was a good day when it was actually devastating. Now I get it, because nobody yelled. So they're like, oh, we must have won because no one yelled. Oh God, they're unbelievable. They're unbelievable. Okay, so now keeping it real on this impeachment, they're already publicly available, whether it was a private hearings that now have public transcripts, or even on the first day, the stuff that we've seen. There's no question he broke those two laws. One is soliciting campaign help from a foreign country, and the other is extortion on the quid pro quo. So is there any chance he doesn't get impeached by the House?
No, I mean, the House is going to impeach him. The question is, what does the Senate do? And I'm tired of people like Mitt Romney saying, well, it's a serious problem, but I'm not going to support an inquiry or impeachment. I mean, the irony here is Donald Trump has called for impeaching Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney hasn't called for impeaching Donald Trump. The point is, we need a few Republicans who say, I care about the Constitution, I care about facts, and I'm going to have the guts to come out and vote for impeachment. I don't think it would take that many, by the way. If you have 3-4 people, this could quickly snowball given the mountain of evidence. But what's keeping Trump protected is that there hasn't been a single Republican willing to break so far.
So, Ro, how about this question? And I'm curious how they would answer it. What crimes do you think President Trump should be allowed to commit? Because you can't argue that soliciting campaign help from a foreign country is not a crime. That's an impossible argument. And did he do that? It's an impossible argument. He definitely did it. Definitely, everybody knows it. That's why they argue about process. That's why they want to yell at the whistleblower. Who cares who the whistleblower is? We already have half a dozen witnesses who already confirmed what the whistleblower said. So I'm curious, like, okay, if he's allowed to break that law and extortion, and then there was the hush money payments, which is another campaign finance law violation, co-conspirators in chair, there was obstruction. So is there a form in which you guys can ask the Republicans, what other laws can he break? At what point would you say, okay, fine, Is it armed robbery? Is it a mugging? What would compel you to say, yes, that crime is impeachment worthy?
That's a great question, Cenk, and we should ask that because that really has become the Republican now defense. Yeah, we acknowledge now that there was a quid pro quo. We acknowledge that the president withheld aid from a foreign leader unless the foreign leader did what the president wanted in digging up dirt to on his political rival. We acknowledge, by the way, that you shouldn't ask a foreign leader to investigate an American citizen, as Nikki Haley is saying. But you know what? We just think all of these things, they're not impeachable. I mean, that's literally their defense, that yes, it was wrong, it was illegal, it was unethical, but it doesn't rise to high crimes and misdemeanors. Yet, of course, all of them thought that what Bill Clinton did rose to high crimes and misdemeanors. So it's a fair question. At what point would they be willing to hold this president accountable? I think the one true statement the president has made in his years as a candidate and president is that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose a lot of his base. And it seems that there he was telling the truth.
Yeah, and maybe that's the bar. I don't know. I don't know if that's below or above the bar. So can you do a mugging? Can you do an armed robbery? Can you shoot someone on Fifth Avenue? At what point do you say it's an impeachable offense? So we might find out soon enough. But I do want to talk about policy as well. So this is also quite literal question. Are we going to vote on anything for the rest of this congressional term?
On prescription drugs, I hope we will. On HR 3, which would allow Medicare to negotiate on prescription drugs. We've talked about that earlier. Progressives are still pushing to see if that bill will include many drugs. And the problem is, look, the pharmaceutical biotech companies are swarming the Hill. Some of them met with me today. And I said, okay, give me your argument. They said, well, it's going to hurt innovation. And then I said, well, insulin was invented 100 years ago. How is it going to hurt insulin from coming to the market? How is it going to hurt Humira, which has 183 patents? Of course, they don't have answers to the actual facts. And the thing with progressives is we'll engage them. We'll meet with them. We'll engage them. But I haven't heard credible response. The problem is our leadership, as we've discussed earlier, they're not doing the full amount of drugs, and they're trying to limit it from 25, 35 drugs. And it puts us obviously in a very difficult position. I mean, do I think a bill with 25 or 35 drugs is better than nothing? Sure, and I think progressives will believe that. But it's not near what we promised the American people.
So, Congressman, how does that process work? So if a progressive wants to put an amendment saying, you know what, I'd like to negotiate drug prices on all drugs because that's the logical position. What happens with that amendment?
Well, the amendment wouldn't be ruled in order or make it through the Energy and Commerce Committee. So you know we can do that as a symbolic measure, but it's not actually going to change the bill. To actually change the bill, we've got to talk to people on Speaker Pelosi's staff. In fact, I was joking around. I can tell you this, and your viewers, that I was joking around that some of the people on the Speaker's staff view themselves as perhaps more powerful than the members of Congress. So we're out there advocating with them, saying, let's get these priorities in. And I do give Mark Pocan and Pramila Jayapal a lot of credit. I mean, they're pushing the envelope as much as they can, but we could use a few more progressives. You know, the more numbers we have, the better. And I'm not talking about 93 members who call themselves part of the Progressive Caucus. I'm talking about, you know, the people like the Justice Democrats and a few others who are really willing to go to the mat on this issue. Someone like Lloyd Doggett.
Yep, justdemocrats.com. You never know how many progressives could be in Congress. So now, other than drug prices, anything else that, because it's just still a long time before the end of the term, is Democratic leadership talk to you guys about, well, you know, after that, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that? What is that?
There's a hope to do infrastructure. I mean, I have advocated that we should still do the $2 trillion infrastructure bill. We shouldn't wait for the Senate or the president to act. There's a reluctance to do it. People say, oh, why do we want to cast tough votes before if the Senate isn't going to go, if the president isn't going to go? And there's a philosophical difference. My view is you cast votes on our positive agenda so that the day we have Bernie Sanders, the day we have Elizabeth Warren or whoever the Democratic nominee is, we've got legislation ready to go. The other side is that you're just playing politics, that you don't want to do bold things. I mean, I had a bill recently that said, let's have federal waivers so states can do single payer. Why don't we get a vote on that? Why don't we get a vote on Medicare for all? Again, the progressives have an agenda for the American people. The tough thing is, how many of these are we going to get votes on?
Yeah, it's not tough to vote on the bills if you actually had principles. Then you vote with what you believe. The only reason that it's tough to vote on the bills is because your voters want one thing and your donors want another thing. And then it makes it tough to vote on the bills. But progressives don't have that problem. Yes.
You know, I was reading Jimmy Carter in 1976 ran on a single payer bill and won. And by the way, that was Ted Kennedy's bill that was scored by the Nixon Health and Human Services Department at the time. And they said that that was going to cost 66% of the national health expenditure then. In other words, it was going to save 33%. Richard Nixon said this. Today, we've got the think tanks on our side saying that it's going to increase costs single payer by 140%. So just to put all of this in perspective, our politics are way less progressive than they were at the time of Richard Nixon. And what progressives are saying is not actually radical. It's saying, let's do things that Harry Truman wanted to do, Lyndon Johnson wanted to do, Ted Kennedy wanted to do, Jimmy Carter wanted to do. Let's stand for something again as a Democratic Party.
Yeah, it isn't hard if you aren't taking money from the health insurance and drug industries. But if you are, then yes, then it is very hard to decide what to do. Oh, the voters or my donors? Okay, but look, guys, there are uncorrupted folks in Congress like Ro. Don't take any corporate PAC money. He was one of the first to do that. So there is hope out there, and yes, those numbers can multiply. So Ro Khanna, as always, thank you for joining the Young Turks. We appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, Cenk. I'm hoping we get more progressives in California 25th.
Let's see what happens.